All right, we're going to finish off lesson 2.3 looking at parallel and perpendicular lines. Actually, I want to start on parallel, not perpendicular. Here we go, parallel lines. Okay, so overall we're looking parallel and perpendicular. This first example, we're looking at parallel lines. I want you to write behind that, parallel lines will have the same slope. So any two lines that are parallel to each other, their slope is exactly the same. Okay, so for example, if we want the line that goes through this point, 1, negative 2, and it is parallel to the line with the equation x minus y equals negative 2. Okay, now first, look at this one. This one is already in a standard form. We want it in y equals mx plus b. When we can get it into y equals mx plus b, this m value, the number that goes with x right in front of x, that's going to be our slope. Now, once we know the slope of this equation, we can say that a parallel slope is going to be the exact same. So once we know a slope and we know this point, we can easily graph it. We were doing that in our previous examples. So to kind of jump the gun here, I'm going to say that 1, negative 2 is right here. Here is our point. So we're already part of the way there towards getting this graphed. We just need to find a slope now. So we're going to start with x minus y equals negative 2. We need to get this into y equals mx plus b. We're going to subtract x from both sides, and we'll get negative y equals negative x minus 2. Now, if it helps, you can put a 1 in front of each of these. This is a 1x, this is a negative 1y. Okay, so what we did was we subtracted 1x. If that helps to think about, we're subtracting 1x, subtracting 1x. So this is like a minus 1x. Okay, negative 1 times x is what you should kind of think of that one being. This is also like a negative 1y. So to get y alone, we're going to multiply each side by negative 1. Now, if you don't want to think of it that way, because this is like times a negative 1, you can think of it as divide by negative 1. Divide by negative 1. It actually does the same exact thing. Multiplying by negative 1 and dividing by negative 1 mean the same exact thing. What's going to change here? Well, this negative y is going to be a positive y. Negative 1x is going to be a positive 1x. And minus 2, or a negative 2, is now a positive 2. So this would be our line. Y equals x plus 2 is the exact same line as x minus y equals negative 2. They mean the exact same thing. So what is our m value that's in front of an x here? Well, there's kind of a hidden 1x. So the slope that we're using is 1, or 1 over 1, which just means go up 1 over 1. So we know that this is the slope we want. We know that we're going through 1, negative 2. So we can plot some points. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. And so on. And it's going to make a nice, perfect little pattern here. All these dots. Up 1 over 1 all the way across. So then, to graph it, after we made some points there, we just connect all of our points, the straight line, and there you have it. So it goes through this point, 1, negative 2, and it is parallel to that line y equals 1x plus 2. Now if you wanted to check y equals 1x plus 2, you could indeed plot that out. That plus 2 tells us we start right here. That 1x says go up 1 over 1, like that. Now I'm not going to draw on the line, but just by looking at these points, you can kind of tell these two lines are exactly parallel. They are never going to intersect each other. They run side by side forever without ever touching, which is what parallel means. Let's do that again. Graph the line through negative 1, 3 that is parallel to the line with the equation x plus 4y equals negative 4. So the point, remember, is negative 1, 3. We can plot that, get that part out of our way. Start with this equation, x plus 4y equals negative 4. Subtract that x from both sides. Again, you can think of it as 1x, so we're minusing 1x on both sides. 4y, positive 4y, because it was a plus, equals negative x, or if it helps you, call it negative 1x minus 4. Now to get y all alone, divide by 4. Y equals negative 1 over 4, negative 1/4, x minus 1, because 4 divided by 4 is this 1. So we have this equation, y equals negative 1/4 x minus 1. The slope that we're looking at then is going to be the exact same slope as here, negative 1/4. So we knew this was our point. We're using this slope, negative 1 over 4, so down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got a couple points here. If we want, we can even go in the other direction. And remember, these would basically just be opposite. We would go left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. Left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. All of these dots then, all of these points will stay in line with our graph. Okay, so it'll go through negative 1, 3, and it'll be parallel to that line. Our next set of examples are looking for perpendicular lines. Now, if you're having trouble remember what perpendicular means, if you have one line, the perpendicular line, it won't intersect it like this. It'll intersect it exactly at a 90-degree angle. So this would be perpendicular. Okay? These ones have an opposite reciprocal slope. Opposite has to do with the sign. So positive changes to negative, negative changes to positive. That's opposite. Reciprocal has to do with the fraction. The numerator becomes the denominator becomes the numerator. They just flip around. So change the sign, flip the numbers. Okay? That's the only thing you have to do to get perpendicular lines, or at least get their slope. So we need to find a line that goes through 2, 1. So 2, 1, it goes through this point right here, and it's perpendicular to the line with this equation. So just like before, we get into y equals mx plus b, plot out our point, use the opposite reciprocal slope from our other equation to plot the next points. So we need to get this into y equals mx plus b, subtract 2x from both sides. We'll have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 3. Divide both sides by that negative 3. Negative 2 divided by negative 3 is positive 2/3. Positive 3 divided by negative 3 is a negative 1. So this is the slope from the other line. Okay, the other line has a slope of positive 2/3, which tells us we need to use a slope of negative 3/2. Positive became negative. 2 on top, 3 on bottom became 3 on top, 2 on bottom. Opposite signs, reciprocal, or flip the numbers, and that figures out our slope. So our slope is going to be negative 3/2. So again, from here, use red, we're going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2. Down 3, over 2. Down 3, over 2. And that will be our line then. So again, very similar to parallel, except for the fact that it's opposite reciprocal slope. Parallel has the same slope, perpendicular has opposite reciprocal. Change the sign, flip the numbers. We're going to do one last example then. Graph the line that goes through negative 3, 1. So I'm going to plot that right away. It's right here. Back 3, up 1. And it is perpendicular to the line with the equation 2x plus 5y equals 10. So we know our steps. We need to get this into y equals mx plus b, so we subtract 2x from both sides, making positive 5y equal negative 2x plus 10. Divide both sides by 5. We get y equals negative 2/5 x plus 2. Divided each of these by 5. So if this one has negative, and it's 2 over 5, for the slope, this one should be positive 5 over 2. So we've got our point, that negative 3, 1. We go up 5 and over 2. That would be our next point. I think the next one would actually be off the chart. It'd be about right here. And if we went the opposite direction, we'd be going down 5 and over 2. Down 5 and over 2. These would be the points then that would help us graph out our line. So we know one point for sure. We find our slope from the other equation. Again, make sure you use the y equals mx plus b. Find the new slope that you want to use and plot a few more points and graph them. That'll wrap it up for 2.3.